will show you how to make kofta. Full recipe for mutton kofta curry coming up. Let me start off by showing you the ingredients for the kofta. So we have about 300 grams of mutton keema, and this has been twice put through the machine. Then we have onions, ginger, garlic, some red chilies. Then I am using some chana dal, which I have soaked for about an hour. Then we have a little jeera, cumin powder, a little coriander powder. I'll be using only half of this, and a little homemade garam masala, which basically just has clove, green cardamom and cinnamon. And now I'll show you the ingredients for the kofta curry. This is tomato puree made at home. Basically 3 tomatoes boiled and then pureed. Then these are 3 smallish onions and the garlic and this quantity of ginger. This is a mix of red chili and Kashmiri mirch and a little turmeric. The first step is to make the koftas and keep it aside. We begin making the koftas by boiling the mince along with all the ingredients that go into the kofta. Don't throw away the water from the chana dal because that has the fragrance of the dal itself. And we will add salt to taste. I haven't added more water to this as yet. I'm going to see if the mince releases some water once it interacts with the salt and the onions. So I'll just give it a minute. Because again, you don't want too much water in this because the water has to dry up for you to be able to make good firm balls. I'm adding around half a cup of water. Okay, now we wait for the whistle. So this pressure cooked for around 5 minutes, and now that the pressure is down, I'm taking off the lid. Let me just give it a stir to see how much the water has to dry. Oh, not too much. Makes life simpler. So the next step is to now dry the water as much as possible. Keep stirring the meat so that it doesn't stick to the bottom. And the flame is high, by the way. Let me show you a tip on how to know whether you've dried the water thoroughly or not. If you move the mince to the sides, then whatever liquid there is will come to the center. So you'll know exactly how much more you need to dry this up. So there's not too much liquid left. Another 1 minute or so should do the trick. So the water seems to have dried completely, and now we can switch off the flame. After your mince for the kofta with all the ingredients has boiled and dried up completely, the water has dried up completely, you decant it in a nice wide bowl so that it cools down faster. Stay with me, I've got some really good tips and tricks for you later on. Now that the mince for the koftas has cooled down, the boiled mince, we are going to grind it in the mixie to make it into a fine paste so that it's easy to make the koftas. It's like atta. This is the kind of paste you need. Now that we've made a really nice paste of the mince, it's time to make the koftas. So here's my tip on how to make koftas easily. I do not use besan, I use bread. The reason why I use bread is because I find that it's a taste that doesn't interfere too much with the meat, and it keeps the kofta soft, and it binds things really well. And very frankly, I'm not very fond of the combination of besan and meat, so which is why I use bread. You can use breadcrumbs if you like. For me, it's just as easy to grate a little bit of bread into the meat. If you're using bread, just make sure you grate it as fine as possible. You don't want pieces of bread coming into your mouth when you're eating the koftas. And now let's give this a really good mix. You can, if you like, at this point add some onions and green chili and coriander, but I'm going to keep it simple. I've just used one slice of bread. I think that should be enough. In case my koftas start breaking, we shall add more. So you can stop mixing when the bread is not visible anymore. And you might want to take a taste of the meat to check for salt. Good koftas are on the way. So now let's shape these. So in order to make sure you get similar size koftas, just divide it up before you start using your hands. Before you start shaping the koftas in your hands, wet your hand a little bit so that the meat doesn't stick. And take out one portion. Roll gently in your hand. And you have a nice kofta. You could make them larger if you like, but I somehow find when I'm faced with huge sized koftas at a table, I find them a little daunting, scary. So I feel this is a nice size too, and you can decide how much you want to eat. This finger goes in to make sure you get the shape. Okay, that's 2 tips. Actually, that's 3 tips. The first one was wet your hands, then how to make sure you get even size koftas, and the third one is how to shape them. Okay, sorry, I'm really bad at maths. That was the 4th tip, because the first one, if you remember, rewind, was on how to use bread to make your koftas. Finally, I've got 16, I won't say same size, but similar size koftas from the quantity of meat that was used. Don't forget that 1 slice of bread was also added, so that has sort of pumped up the volume. Okay, here's a really important tip. If you find that you've suddenly got guests and you have these koftas planned and you want to increase them, you can actually increase the bread quantity, but add a soup cube to make sure that that meaty taste doesn't go away. The next step is the one I'm most scared of, and that is we are going to fry the koftas. Let's hope they don't break. I'm using a non-stick fry pan because I really don't want anything to happen to my koftas. So much effort has gone into them. But what you can do is fry the koftas in a non-stick pan and then shift the scene, so to speak, to a steel wok kadhai. So the ideal temperature for the oil, I'm not going to get into degrees over here, but is to get it sort of medium hot, because you don't want it to start spluttering once you put the kebabs in. So you can either heat it and then bring the temperature down, or you can start off with a lower temperature right from the start. The meat has already been cooked, so you're not really cooking here. You're trying to give it a coating, a crisp coating, so that it holds in the gravy. koftas are shallow fried, but I find that it helps if you keep basting them with oil so that it sort of stays an even temperature all around and doesn't decide to start bursting from the bottom or getting stuck at the bottom. And these little bits that are there in the oil, don't worry about it, because we are going to use the same oil to make the gravy, and those meat bits are really going to add to the flavor of the masala. Trust me on this. Okay, these are done. I shall remove them. With one bread, the koftas weren't really holding that well. I did manage to rescue them, but so I've added one more slice of bread to the remaining koftas, and now we're frying them. Once you take them out of the hot oil, let them cool. When they cool, they sort of firm up a bit before you add them to the gravy. In any case, we're going to be doing the gravy now, because I want these meat bits that are here in this oil to actually become part of my gravy. Now that the koftas are done, the next step is to make the kofta curry. In the same oil that I fried the koftas in, I'm going to add this. You will note that the flame is off because I don't want the meat bits that are left behind to burn. And once I've put the onion, ginger, garlic in, I will put on the gas. So I've added the tomato puree to this as well. In goes the chili. I've used a mild chili. You can see a difference in color as well as Kashmiri chili. Garam masala with turmeric and coriander. And you add salt as per your taste. And we shall cover it and let it cook a bit on slow fire. All this has thickened a bit and the onion is nice and soft, the garlic is soft. I'm going to switch this off now, let it cool, and then I shall puree it. I added the tomato in because otherwise the meat bits that were in the oil were getting a little burnt, which I didn't want. The masala for the gravy has got nicely fried. I have taken it out from the wok, the kadhai, and I've tried to leave most of the oil behind in it. And now we're going to puree this because I want a really smooth gravy. This is the same jar in which I ground the meat. I haven't washed it because I want those meat bits. I'm not wasting any of the meat in this dish. More than wastage, the idea is to get as much meaty flavor as possible. So why waste anything, right? And remember, don't grind the masala until it's like really cooled down, otherwise accidents can happen. Oh, look at that. And now this will go back to the wok and all this will get washed with a little water and be added. So see the oil I was talking about? Yeah. I'm going to use some warm water in this to wash it out. Okay, so here's the secret to this recipe. If you've noticed, for the koftas, I use the basic Shami kebab mix. And that is one of the most tasty mixes you can have for, kebabs or anything like that. And I am using that to form the base of this whole dish, which is so different from any kofta curry you would have ever eaten anywhere. Slow fire and a little more water, not too much. See the color changing? Keep stirring gently and make sure it's on low flame, slow fire, so that it doesn't burn. We're waiting for the oil to come to the top And this process is basically called bhunoing. One of my Facebook friends was saying that this curry addition to koftas basically started with the East Indians or the Anglo-Indians, and they're the ones who started off this thing of ball curry and rice. And I don't know how true that is historically, but ball curry and rice is also good. So what I'm doing basically is I am once again frying the masala so that the oil rises to the top. I shall add a little water, and then once it starts simmering, I will add the koftas. The thickness is something you can decide, how thick or how thin you want it. Are you having it with rice or roti? Don't stir, just shake. So the koftas are done. I'm just going to cover it and let it sit for around 3-4 minutes before dishing up and tasting. And there we have it, beautiful mutton kofta. You can garnish your koftas with coriander, green chilies and a little ginger. This is pickled ginger. So this was the kofta curry. Now let me show you how you can turn this into a Shahi kofta curry in 30 seconds. You just add a little cream with raisins and cashew nuts and some nice ghee which you've turned red because you've added lal mirch to it, and you've got Shahi koftas. Now it's time to taste the kofta. First I'm going to taste the simple kofta curry. That is the softest kofta I have ever eaten. It is so yummy, I can't tell you. I'm very frankly not really a kofta person, but you serve me this any day and I will clean up my plate. So go ahead and try it. The aftertaste is delicious, absolutely. And while I was chewing the kofta, I have to confess there was no taste of the bread at all. It was totally meaty, and the spices, everything sort of, melded together. It was really yummy. And all those meat bits that were there in the gravy really added to the flavor of the gravy. I mean, I could eat that gravy even without the kofta because it's nice and meaty and yummy and delicious. And now I am going to be very brave and try the Shahi kofta. That's actually good. That cream and the ghee does work wonders for it. So Shahi kofta also, thumbs up, even though Amit and I are not very Shahi people. But yeah, I think it works. That addition of the cream and the raisins and the cashew nut and the ghee does work. So you make your basic kofta curry depending on what you're serving that dish for. You can either leave it plain and have it with nice garam garam pulkas or some nice steaming rice, or you can make it shahi and serve it to your guests and be complimented. This was a spicy dish because as you have seen, I added 3 different kinds of chilies: the regular hot chili, the Kashmiri chili powder, as well as the dry red chilies in the ingredients for the kofta. And spicy koftas is really the way to go, but if you're not into spice, you can avoid quite a bit of the chilies. It'll still taste good. I hope you guys liked this recipe, and we'll see you again next week. Meanwhile, there are a whole lot of shows on our channel for you to watch, so you can keep watching and cooking and having a great time. Did you know that there's a variety of koftas all around the globe? I mean, it's not just here in India. In India, of course, we make koftas with everything, with mutton, chicken, lauki, paneer, anything, you name it, you can make a kofta with it. But it's also there in America in the form of meatballs, and Italy, of course, and in the Mediterranean, in Turkey, in the Middle East. Kofta is world renowned.